In this video, we're going to talk about wasps. Now, for most of us, just hearing that word brings one thing to mind, right? A painful sting. But what if I told you that behind that fearsome reputation is a complex world, one that's actually vital to our own? So that's the big question we're tackling today. Are wasps just a pest trying to ruin your picnic, or are they secretly protectors of the planet? The answer, you'll see, is way more surprising than you might think. Let's get into it. So, to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to be clear on what a wasp actually is. Let's start with the absolute basics. Okay, so wasps are insects, part of a group called Hymenoptera, which is the same club that bees and ants belong to. They're pretty easy to spot because of that classic slender body and that super narrow waist. And here's a key detail: only the females have that famous stinger. And we're not talking about a small family here. The diversity is just wow. Scientists have identified over 30,000 different species of wasps around the globe, each one with its own unique thing going on. These guys are also incredibly adaptable. You can find them on every single continent on Earth, thriving in pretty much any environment you can think of. With one very, very chilly exception. Antarctica is the only place you can go to be completely wasp-free. Alright, now we know what they are and where they live. But how does a wasp become a wasp? Let's take a look at their incredible life cycle, from a tiny little egg to a full-grown, buzzing adult. A wasp's life is a 4-act play. It starts as an egg, laid by the queen in a little nursery cell. Then it hatches into a larva. Think of it as a little eating machine that gets fed a high-protein diet by the adults. After that, it becomes a pupa, transforming inside a cocoon, before finally coming out as an adult, ready to get to work. But how long do they get to live this life? Well, it really depends on your job in the colony. The queen is in it for the long haul. She can live for up to a year, long enough to survive the winter and start a whole new colony in the spring. The workers and males, though, they have a much shorter gig, living for just a few weeks or maybe a couple of months. And speaking of short lives, the males, or drones, have a very specific and, very short purpose. Their one and only job is to mate with the new queen. Once they've done that, their life's work is complete and they die pretty soon after. Yeah, it's a process literally called suicidal reproduction. Now, that huge difference in lifespan between the queen and everyone else really points to a highly organized society. But when we think of wasps, we usually picture this giant buzzing hive. Turns out, that's not the whole story. Not all wasps are the social creatures we imagine them to be. In fact, most of them prefer a solitary life. While social wasps live in those big colonies with a queen, the vast majority, we're talking over 20,000 species, they operate independently. And they're usually way less aggressive than their social cousins. In a social colony, though, everything, and I mean everything, revolves around the queen. This quote just sums it up perfectly. The motto of wasps is not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the queen. If she makes it, the whole colony's genetic line makes it. The queen's entire job is to grow the colony, and she is an absolute machine. At her peak, a queen can lay between 200 and 300 eggs every single day. It's a full-time job. So, a colony that big obviously needs a serious amount of food. But wasps aren't just eating, they're also getting eaten. Let's look at their really important place in the whole food web. What's pretty wild is that a wasp's diet completely changes during its life. The adult wasps have a real sweet tooth. They love sugary stuff like nectar, fruit, and yeah, even your can of soda. But the growing babies, the larvae, they need protein. So the adult workers go out and hunt other insects like caterpillars and spiders to feed them. So as predators, wasps have their own enemies to worry about, from birds and bats to spiders and praying mantises. But here's the cool part. Their role as hunters creates some really unlikely friendships. For farmers and gardeners, wasps are a huge help. They provide natural pest control by eating all the bugs that destroy crops. That makes them super important for keeping entire ecosystems in balance. Okay, but beyond all that, the world of wasps is just filled with amazing, sometimes weird abilities. So let's run through 5 surprising facts that prove there's so much more to them than just a sting. First up, their nests are masterpieces of engineering. Wasps are basically expert paper makers. They'll go scrape off tiny wood fibers, chew them up into a pulp, and mix it with their own saliva to create that papery material they use to build their incredible nests. Second, and this is wild, they are way smarter than we give them credit for. Actual studies have shown that some wasp species can recognize and remember other individual wasps just by looking at their unique facial patterns. kind of like how we recognize each other. Third, okay, this one's a little bit creepy. Some wasps have a pretty gruesome way of raising their kids. A lot of those solitary wasps are actually parasites. They'll find a host, like a caterpillar, paralyze it, and then lay their eggs inside it, so when the larvae hatch, they have a fresh meal ready and waiting. Yikes. Fourth, and this is good to know, if you make one wasp angry, you might have a much bigger problem on your hands. That's because their venom has an alarm pheromone in it. When one wasp stings, it releases a chemical signal that basically screams danger to all the other wasps nearby, and that makes them way more aggressive. And finally, let's clear up a common mix-up. What's the deal with hornets? It's actually pretty simple. All hornets are just a type of wasp, but not all wasps are hornets. You know, like how all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. Same idea. So we come all the way back to our first question. Are they a pest, or are they a misunderstood powerhouse? I think it's pretty clear they are way more complex and way more important than we usually give them credit for. Alright, that is it for this video, everyone. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.